All right. Good morning, everyone. Um, I think as always, let's give everyone a few minutes. It's a rainy morning. I don't know if any of you, like me, stayed up for the Apple announcements. I am amazingly sleepy right now. I'm operating on like 3 hours of sleep, but let's give some time for people to wake up and join us. Okay, so let's give everyone maybe about 5 minutes. Feel free to take a bit of a toilet break. Get something to eat, get something to drink. We will get started. Okay, and I'm not going to get started immediately with the new material. I'll do a bit of a recap first, just so that we are all kind of up to speed. Okay, all right. So let's start at in about 5 minutes time. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's get started with today's workshop. We are down a few people, but I think it's fine. Okay, so let me just get started with a few announcements. I put them up in the Discord server, but in case you missed them, I just wanted to reiterate some of these things. Okay, so here you go. Okay, so first things first, these workshops are not compulsory. You can watch them later if and when you need them. And how do you watch them later? You can actually just go back to the same links over here. These used to be Zoom links, right? But now once it passes and once I manage to upload it, it will actually become a YouTube link. Okay, so very straightforward. If it doesn't work for you, you might need to refresh. You might need to paste in the URL one more time and then just press enter to force your browser to reload. Okay, so yeah, 90 views, not bad. Okay, so that's about the same number of people who actually showed up. So I think some folks are actually watching this after the fact. That's fine. Okay, hello to asynchronous watchers. So that's great. But I also want to emphasize that they are not compulsory. Okay, and if you can't keep up, that's okay. We are actually speed running things a little bit. I would say that this, the material that we're covering yesterday and today would normally take us about 20 to 30 hours. Okay, we're trying to do it in about 12. Okay, so what's happening is I'm just demoing stuff and I'm not stopping for too much. Okay, I'm stopping for questions and I'm stopping whenever I get confused by, tripping myself up over stupid mistakes. Okay, that will happen. I appreciate the help from yesterday from whoever helped me out. I really do appreciate it. If you spot any errors on my end, just let me know in the chat, or you can even unmute yourself to let me know. Okay, but if you've been watching this and you found the stuff intimidating and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not suitable for this hackathon, please do not stress. Okay, you are free to use any technology that you want, right? This is just a free workshop provided by DSTA so that you can actually get some, learn something new, right? Just learn something new, try something new. And, it is a pretty good technology to use for hackathons in general, especially if you are making mobile apps. All right, so that's my little preamble in terms of, just making sure that people are not too discouraged by how much stuff is being covered over these 2 days. Okay, if you work better with a little bit more structure, consider NLB's Udemy business courses. You can just go to nlbsg.udemy.com, log in with your library account, and you can find the highest rated app development course there, and you can just watch that at your own pace, right? I guarantee that these people will make fewer mistakes than me, right? They will not halfway get confused because they didn't add a file extension. They did not add a file extension on their file. Okay, so all right, and the most important thing to watch, the most important thing to tune into is this Friday at 10 a.m. Okay, this Friday, 10 a.m. is the actual hackathon. That's when you will learn what needs to go into the first submission for the qualifiers. Okay, so just to give you a bit of a tip on that, you probably don't need these 2 days, right? Yesterday and today. Yesterday and today is when we cover React Native. So these are the topics, right? My very vaguely named Intro to React Native, more React Native, even more React Native, and so much more React Native. I'm very sorry. I tried to name these the best I can. All right, but tomorrow, right, this prototyping session is probably the most useful one for you because that's kind of what you're going to submit. Okay, so whatever you submit for the actual hackathon, right, and this is the timeline. Let me just pull that on screen. This Friday is when they release the problem statement. You have 6 days, including the weekend. Feel free to work, and you can submit on 14th of June. Okay, what do you submit? You do not need to submit a full working React Native app. All right. In fact, you don't even need to do it in React Native. Okay, I can give you some assurance right now, all right, that you can just submit something that will give the judges a sense of how your app works so that they can look at it and then they're like, this one quite promising. I think this one, I want to see how it's created. I mean, of course, that means that you don't go and promise something you cannot create. All right. So the training here, there is some use because hopefully it gives you a bit of grounding into what's doable and what is easily doable, what is difficult to do, right? So you can make most of it, right? Even in the final submission, right? The MVP, you don't even need to make all of it as well. Okay, but the qualifiers over here, I think the key thing to note is that your job is to convince the judges, whoever they are, that your submission is worthy of being one of the 20 finalists from each category, right? This number might be wrong, okay? So please don't quote me. I did not say 20. Okay, so just FYI on this, all right? So the most important thing is 9th of June, you get started, get to work, right? Get to work, finish something, submit 14 June, okay? All right, so then we will take some time to select finalists. We'll announce the finalists on 16 June, and that's when you need to commit to being at MBS, I believe, on the 21st and 22nd of June for the live hackathon. Okay, this means that you can actually get started on your MVP between 16 and 21st, but there might be some little quirks thrown in to ensure that everyone has a bit of even footing, so that you don't just finish everything on the 20th and like, haha, I'm done, right? Then you go, or they go there on 21st and take a nap. Okay. All right. So that's where we are at on the hackathon and the training. Okay, so don't stress. I think I did hear from one particular one or more students that say, oh wow, this is way too advanced for me. Okay, don't stress. All right, treat these 2 days as learning. Tomorrow, if you're free, do join us for the prototyping stuff. Okay, I think I suspect many of you know how to use these things. We're just going to go through Figma and just getting it to and just building ideas and things like that. Okay, but the most important thing is Friday is when you're launching the actual hackathon. Okay, all right. So those are the announcements for today. Okay, and just clarifying some things. Once again, I would like to reiterate. Okay. Oh, sorry. I need to message Wei Xuan to ask whether he or she minds that I give, because Wei Xuan won both of the quizzes yesterday. So there is a quiz at the end of every session, right? We have a mystery prize to give away. It's not it's just a small little prize, okay, and we will send it to you. All right, but yeah, we'll check whether Wei Xuan, who won both yesterday, actually wants to get 2 prizes, right? Okay, but anyway, do stay around for that. That's at the end of the session. Okay, this channel over here, this is our chat platform for today. Okay, if you have any questions or comments or things like that, please let us know over here. Okay, for me, I will also post certain things over here. I will every now and then post GitHub links, okay, like any apps that are in development. So what you can do is you can click on the link and you can actually follow along over here. All right, so give me a moment, I need to sneeze. Okay, sorry. All right, so this is the thing that I was working on yesterday, right? It was 17 hours ago. If you click on that, you will see these are the things that I changed. Okay, so hopefully you're kind of familiar with GitHub. If anyone thinks you need a bit of an introduction, please let me know. Okay, maybe we might have a bit of time tomorrow during the prototyping session. Okay, so yeah, so if you want to see the different changes that I make, every time I make a commit, it's like a save point. You can see over here, these are all the changes that I made. And if you click on it, you can see the differences, right? So previously it was like this, now it's over like this. Okay, so that's the format that we are working with. All right, so during the session, like, feel free to chime in if in case of emergencies or things like that. Things like, I'm talking, I look like I'm talking, but there's no sound coming from my machine. Okay, please let me know. Okay, if I am not sharing my screen, if my screen sharing turns off and I'm talking as though I'm sharing my screen, please let me know as well. Yeah, I think those are the main ones. If I make any stupid mistakes when typing, right, please feel free to just unmute yourself and hello. Okay, or you can DM, you can message me, you can direct message me on Zoom, right? I will probably take note. Okay, so those are the main things, right? We do prefer, if you have any questions, to ask publicly inside here. I think that would be best. It's good for everyone who can benefit from it, and I can kind of address it during the class as well. Okay, I think that covers everything I wanted to brief everyone on. Any questions on this? Okay, all right. Okay, so let's do a quick review of what we did yesterday. All right, so yesterday we started on React Native. Okay, and we started on React Native in the browser using something called Expo Snack. Okay, so snack.expo.dev will bring you there. And this over here will give you a little React Native editor, which might be good enough hackathon. Okay, I'm not saying that it's not. Okay, so you can see over here, there's a whole bunch of stuff, right? And this thing down here inside your export default function app, this is your view, right? What is seen on the screen. Okay, so one of the things that confuses people the most when they first see this coming from HTML and CSS and JavaScript is that, whoa, everything is in JavaScript. okay? And you mix in what's equivalent of HTML. It's equivalent now, it's not quite the same. The equivalent of HTML is over here. The equivalent of JavaScript is down here. Okay, but these are all technically just JavaScript, right? This is a variant of JavaScript called JSX. It's a flavor of JavaScript called JSX, which looks a lot like HTML, but it's not quite the same. Okay, it's got its own little components like view and text and card in this case. Okay, but you can treat it as though it's HTML because this view essentially contains a text and a card. This card essentially contains an asset example. What's an asset example? Well, everything that you add inside here, you can go to the top and you can take a look at the imports, right? So we're using the import export, the notation from the JavaScript. JavaScript has two ways of bringing in files from other places. One is the require notation and one is the import notation. We're using the import notation in React Native. All right, if that didn't make sense to you, don't worry. All right, just be aware that there's more than one way to import stuff in JavaScript, but React Native uses the import syntax. Okay, so over here, right, this one is straightforward. You can see this is importing certain views from React Native, such as text, right? Text just puts text on screen. View is like a div, it just contains things. And style sheet is a way of creating styles. So we'll talk about that in a bit. All right. Down here, we also import this thing, right? Import card from React Native Paper. React Native Paper is a UI library. It's a pretty nice UI library, and it gives you this little card over here. So it becomes something that, you know, it's just nicely styled. You know, look how it's got this nice little rounded corner over here. Got a bit of a very subtle shadow, right? Imagine having to do that yourself. Okay, so you can think of the time you can save by using the pre-built components using React Native Paper. Okay, so this is actually pretty decent for prototyping, right? If you're not one to use a design software or anything, all right, you can actually consider using something like this. Okay, and the last thing that they imported was asset example. What's that? Asset example is not a standard UI component. They imported it from /components/asset example, which means / is this folder. Okay, components, oh, that's a folder, and open it asset example. So let me open up asset example. That's a completely different component. All right, but it looks very similar. It also imports stuff from React Native. It also has this thing called export default function. It also has this JSX over here, and it also has some styles down here. Just that it says export default function. And what that does is it will make available this particular component for other people to import. Okay, so that's what's happening over here, right? And then when we import it, now you can use it over here, right? And if you really want, you can use it twice. It's kind of like a function, if you will, right? You can just put it over here, and now you have two of the same thing. Nice. Okay, if I notice how this thing is kind of indented wrongly because I pasted badly, okay, you can press the prettier button and it will reformat everything for you. Okay, it's kind of nice to have your code nicely indented. All right. Now, down here, we talk about the styles. How do you style something? All right, you can see over here, there's a style prop. Okay, these are called props. They're short for properties, right? This is a style prop inside your JSX. It says that, hey, for this style, can you go down to my styles.container? Now, this curly brace over here is very important because in JSX, you cannot just type, you know, var a equals to 0, a plus 1, right? You need to actually switch over to JavaScript. Just treat JSX as a completely different language from JavaScript, but it's interchangeable, okay? So every time then you want to switch over to JavaScript, you use curly braces, okay? And this styles.container will come down here, look for styles, and look for container, all right? And you apply the styles that are inside here. This thing down here is a JavaScript object, right? It's a JSON object, right? JavaScript object notation object. JSON object notation object. Okay, so what it means is that it's got all these different attributes that will define the style. Okay, and let's say, for example, I want to add a new style for this part. I'll say style equals to styles.asset. Okay, so I just create a brand new one. I'm going to apply the same style to both of my assets. That's perfectly fine. And down here, I'm going to create a new one called asset. And I'm going to give it a padding of 10. Okay. So when I do that, you will see that hopefully, oh wait, sorry. I don't want to apply it to that. I kind of want to apply it to the style, but all right. Yeah, all right. Okay. So let me put it over here. Okay. Okay, never mind. Let me see if I can let me see if I can just make it a bit more obvious. Like let's say I give it a background color of red. It doesn't help because it's already got its own, it's just an image. Okay, there's not much background color I can do. Okay, no worries. Let's say border color of red and border width of 10. All right, let's see if I can give it. No, I can't seem to make anything visible. Right, so that's not a good example. So please ignore that. Right, those of you watching on YouTube, just ignore what I just did. Okay. So let me just actually, you know what? Okay, let me try that again. All right. So what I want is I want to have a card. Right. Let's say I have two different cards over here. Okay, and I can press prettier to reformat my screen. All right, I have two different cards. Okay, and now let me try and give them some different styles. Okay, so I'm going to say padding of 20. Okay, and that does give them a bit more padding, right, inside each of them. Okay, and perhaps a margin of 20 as well, right, so that they are certain distance apart from one another. That's a bit more obvious. Okay, so this is how you create a new style, right? I just said card colon and then followed by this JavaScript object. JavaScript objects or JSON, all right, are essentially dictionaries with a key value pair. Okay, this resembles your CSS quite a lot, but it's not exactly 100% the same as CSS. Look at this font size, right? Font size is not font dash size in CSS. You can't use a dash in the middle of JSON because it's still JavaScript. Font dash size will be interpreted as font minus size. That doesn't work. Okay, so that's why you have to use 18. You can't do font dash weight colon bold. You need to put bold or any text inside quotation marks. Double quotes, single quotes, perfectly fine. Okay, similarly for colors. All right, so that's the general idea behind here. Notice that we have commas after everything because we just plan ahead to add more stuff later. So if I write this thing, let's put a comma at the end, right? It's just a good habit to have. Right, press prettier, like format up your code a little bit, and that's good to go. Okay, so there's a lot of these style properties that you can use, right? So background color, I don't want this like, little gray color. This is a hexadecimal, of course. If you want to find a hex color code, you can always go to Google and search for hex color code, and it should, hang on, hex color, okay. Let's go to hex color, okay, hang on, seriously. Hex color code picker, right? If you go to hex color code picker, I'm trying to find the thing that where Google actually gives me a color code picker, but it seems like I can't, so I'm just going to open up this thing. Okay, then you just pull one of these. There's a little hex color code picker. If I want this, dirty brown color, I am going to just put over here and paste it inside here, including the hash sign in front of it. Okay, so there you go, right? That is my background color. Okay, so that's the very basics of working with React Native and styling stuff and putting things on screen and importing from different files and stuff like that. That's of course not everything that we did, right? But it's a good start. All right. So now after that, right, after the morning session, we switched over to local development. Okay, and for local development, I guess one thing I should take note of is that my slides are not 100% updated. I've been trying to find the things, okay? The installation process has changed a little bit since we wrote the slides. I apologize for this, but web development moves very, very fast. Okay, so if you want to install it, right? If you want to install Expo on your computer, right? I do recommend it because then it opens up a lot of different possibilities, right? Such as working on Git and things like that. Okay, you need to go to this website, your Expo dev get started, and you need to install this thing called Expo CLI. Okay, Expo CLI is a command line tool that will serve your project. So you need to install Node, need to install Git, need to install Watchman. Okay, you don't need to use Yarn. VS Code editor, I do recommend. Okay, and there's a VS Code Expo extension. Okay, let me install that later. Right, if you are on Windows, they recommend PowerShell. Right, so that's good. Once you've installed all that, you can just do npx expo-h to find the list of commands available. And if you want to log in, you can do npx expo who am I followed by npx expo register, right? Then you can do or you can log in. Okay. If you want to create a new project, you would do, well, this is not creating a new project. This one is to start it, right? Create a new project is here in the documentation, right? To create a new project, you say npx create expo app, my app. Okay. You can also use a template, right, to see the list of available templates, but usually you just start from the blank template, right? Then we go inside there and do npx expo start. There are other things you can run, like npm run iOS and expo run iOS and things like that. Let me just show you the process real quick. Okay, so I have a terminal over here. Where's my terminal? My terminal is over here. All right, great. Okay, so here's my terminal, right? So let's say I want to again, this is something that I kind of have to assume that many of you know about or are vaguely familiar with, right? So a terminal. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that you know. So you can type in cd developer. This is my developer folder. Okay, and if your terminal doesn't look like this, you can install all kinds of different plugins. Okay, for on the Mac or Linux, this is OhmyZish. OhmyZish, and it's a pretty simple installation too. So you can actually make your terminal look good, right? Customizable and better than the plain terminal. Okay, I'm actually using something called Item 2. Right, on Windows, I like Windows Terminal, and there are ways to customize that as well. All right, so I've already installed my Expo. If I do this npx expo-h, it will actually give me a list of commands. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to create a new project, and the way I do that is npx create expo app. Okay, let me just do recap app. Okay, so what that does is it will load a bunch of stuff from the internet. Right, like I mentioned yesterday, it will download about 250 megabytes of stuff. Okay, just to give you a bare bones hello world React Native project. Okay, so you might want to take note of this in case you are trying to do this from mobile, mobile data or things like that. Right, 250 megs is no joke. Okay, so let's wait for it to download and install all that stuff. Okay, and in the meantime, right, make sure that you have a copy of Visual Studio Code. Right, so Visual Studio Code is the de facto choice of many React Native and other web developers. Okay, you just download the version, install it, and there are some certain plugins that will get you to use. Okay, so it's a pretty nice piece of software, right? Works really well. Microsoft, we're using a lot of Microsoft stuff here, by the way. Microsoft does Visual Studio Code, and they also own GitHub, right? So doing quite well for developers. React Native is owned by Meta, right? So hang on, I need to authenticate this. Hang on. Okay, all right, so there we go. All right, so it says cd recap app, right? And I've been using one of these commands, right? npm run iOS, but you can also use the command that they tell you to, which is npx expo start. So let's do that. npx expo start. Okay, so what that does is it will, oh, whoops, I'm already running another app in another window. Let me just quit that. Okay, let me just quit. Control C to quit. Let's start again. All right, so if I do this, it'll start the project for me. And what this does is it'll just give me a QR code. Okay, and this QR code seems fairly useless at first. What do you need a QR code for, right? The reason you have this QR code is so that you can actually go ahead and preview this on the device. Okay, on the device, and I think I'll try and demo that in a moment. Okay, but for now, you can also demo it. You can also open the Android, right? If you have the Android, the developers, the Android Studio installed. If you have Xcode installed and you're on the Mac, you can open the iOS simulator, right? I'm not sure why it's disabled. Okay, and if you want web stuff, you need to install a bunch of stuff. Okay, I've been using the web preview, and the web preview is what has been powering this. Okay, I like it because it's fast, but it's a bit limited. It doesn't show you all the error messages, unfortunately. Okay, so yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press I to open the iOS simulator. Right, and that's of course only available if you've already installed Xcode, which is Apple's development platform, right? And here it is, right? Here it is over here, right? And I can press, I'm just going to reload my project. And what this gives me is the brand new project that I've created. Notice down here, it's got building the JavaScript bundle. It's taking the JavaScript and building it into something that can display on your iOS device. Okay, and now it's just this Hello World app. All right. Okay, so if I want to open it up in my Visual Studio Code, where's my Visual Studio Code? Right, this is yesterday's app. I'm going to have to press File, Open in Visual Studio Code, go to my developer folder, which is one level up from here, and I'm going to go to Recap App, which is down here. Right, press Open, and now I have this inside here. Okay, so let me put this side by side with my simulator over here. Okay, those of you who are on Mac, you've probably seen, oops, wrong way around, but that's fine, I guess. And no, I don't like it. Let me do it again. Okay, so let me put this over here. Hang on. All right, let me make this full screen. All right, and let me go pull in the simulator over there. So let's pull this into the right side. No, failed. Hang on. Okay, let me try again. Pull this over here. Okay, good. All right, so I like this little setup, right, where I have the code on the left and my preview on the right. Okay, so this is a pretty decent working environment, right? So I can just quickly test it out to see if it works. Once you have your npx expo start in the background, if you press save, right, it will auto reload your whatever device you are previewing it on. Okay, so I think that's about it for the recap. You know what? Give me a minute or two. Let me go and find a cable, right? And I will demo what it looks like if you run this on your actual device. Okay, so give me a second. I'm pretty sure I have a cable down here. I can just grab cable. Yes, I have a cable. Okay, so I'm going to, this is for those on Mac, right? You can actually grab your cable, right? Actually, I think you might be able to do this on other, if you're on Android, right, you can also do something similar, but I think you need to install the, okay, no, hang on. Okay, so let me charge this first. Okay, so if you want to preview it on your device, right, you don't need a cable, you don't need to plug anything in, right? It really is cross-platform, all right? The reason why I need a cable is because I want to project my iPhone screen onto my onto here. Okay, so give me a second while I get things set up, right? So okay, so let me get it set up over here, QuickTime Player. All right, so on the Mac, you can project your screen onto here, right? New screen recording. And let me see. Hang on a second. I'm just doing this on another screen. So give me a second. I just want to show you how it looks like. Open my iPhone. Allow. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is my iPhone. Okay, this is not headphones, this other device. Okay, and I've downloaded the Expo Go app over here. So if you open it up, all right, this is the thing that will actually launch, right? So you can see I'm running this on my machine. You can't really see the thing. Okay, but you can see my screen being projected, right? So this one over here, okay, allow you to find stuff on your local network. You do need to access it because it must be on the same Wi-Fi as your device. Okay, so you can see over here, right? These are some of the projects that I'm working on. Okay, and what I want to do now is I want to scan this QR code on my screen. Okay, now you can't actually scan the QR code from the app itself. All right, Apple doesn't like that, so you have to scan it using the actual camera. So let me just pull up my camera and scan this real quick. All right, open in Expo Go, and what that does is it will pull the project from my computer, and now I have Hello World over here, right, on my phone. Hello World. Right, let me make a more obvious change. Let's say I give my view a background color that is red, F00, or we can just do red, I guess. Save. Okay, so now it's red, and if you look at my phone, it's can you see? It's kind of red. All right, but if I go back to here, yes, my phone is also red color. Okay, so pretty nice, right? Sometimes I like having a device to just look at, right? And what you can do is you can shake the device if you find any issues, right? It will bring up this thing over here where you can actually open some debuggers and things like that. Okay, you can actually open an element inspector down here, and this thing over here will kind of show you, kind of like HTML. Those of you who are used to the Chrome inspector, you can actually see what's going on, right? Yeah, this thing over here has a certain size, it's got a certain margin, certain padding, and things like that. Right? This thing can be done as well on a simulator device. You just need to press Command D and press, sorry, not reload. You need to press Command D over here, and you need to press the show element inspector. So it's perfectly possible to do it here as well, right? Yeah, Command D to reload and go back. Okay, right, sorry, let me turn off the inspector. Hide element inspector. Okay. All right, so I think that's enough of a recap. I hope that covers what people need to know from yesterday, right? What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to continue from the names app from yesterday, right? So let me open up the other one, open folder. Where's my names app? Here it is. Okay, make sure you open the entire folder. All right, there you go. Okay, and there we go. Here, deprecated. It's okay. All right. Okay, cool. So this is my names app, all right? As you can see, there's a bunch of stuff going on. Let me head back to my terminal and stop this server, right? So that it stops this particular thing, cd ... right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd to names app, which is where we left off yesterday. And I'm going to npx expo run. Was it run or start? Right? npx expo start. Okay, so yeah, there we go. All right, so here we go. If I press I here, right, what it will do is it will find the same simulator, right, and it will launch it over there. Okay, so sometimes it fails. You can see a bit of a warning. You just need to press Command D, Command D, right, and reload. Okay, then it will pull in the latest project for you. Okay, there we go. This is where we left off yesterday. We made a performance scrolling list. All right, so just a quick recap as well. For this, we are talking about lists. We have this giant list of names, right? Super long, super disgusting, right? You probably shouldn't have all these things in the same file as your actual project. We'll fix that in a moment. And the other thing is we wanted to render them nicely. We use something called a flat list. Okay, the flat list takes in three things: a data, key extractor, and render item. Data is the array of objects. Okay, so my problem was that this array over here, right, was an array of strings. I wanted an array of objects. So what we did was we mapped through it, right? So your higher order functions are going to come into play over here. You map through it. You say that, okay, for every item, I'm just going to give it a name attribute where the value of that is equals to the item itself. And the ID is going to be the index. Okay, so down here, the data extract and the key extractor will just follow this, right? Data is named as objects, and key extractor will be like, oh, okay, for each item, take the item.id, right? Render item is the way you render the row. Right now, the row renderer just says, okay, for every item, just put a text. You can make this better, right? You can make this slightly better looking, right? So for example, if you want to make it better looking, first of all, you want to put brackets around it, okay, so that it can go on multiple lines. Maybe you don't just have a text, maybe you have a view around it as well. View style equals to, let's use double curly brackets. Okay, these double curly brackets mean that you are switching over to JavaScript mode, and inside here, you have an object with a style. So here you could have something like padding 10, background color, blue, maybe not blue, light blue, and give it a margin of 10 as well. Okay, so let's save this and see what happens. So what it does is that for every single one of our items, it will now be embedded inside a view with a certain style. Okay, and your text will be inside there. Okay, so it just changes the rendering of every single item. Okay. By the way, notice that it does kind of like reach the top of the screen. You can prevent that by importing something called safe area. All right, so that's one. The other thing I wanted to do was I wanted to move this out to a different file and also kind of show you the import syntax one more time. So here's what I would do. I would probably create a new folder in here called data. Okay, and again, if you are working in React Native, there's no fixed structure for your React Native project. All right, when you create your new React Native project in Expo, they will give you some folders. They give you an assets folder, right? So that's great. You can put your different assets inside there. They'll give you a .expo folder, which you should not touch. Okay, anything with a dot shouldn't be touched. Node modules also, don't delete anything inside there. That's where all your different modules are living. Okay. All right, so inside assets, inside data, I'm going to create a new file, right? So I'm going to make a new file called names.js. Okay, so inside names.js, what I'm going to do is I am going to move this stuff out. Right, so let me just select this. Scroll, hold down Shift and Command X. Okay, so that will extract everything from there and put it into names.js. Okay, so one thing to note if you're new to Visual Studio Code, notice this little thing is called the dirty indicator, not dirty as in, got ghost, all right? But essentially it means that there's a change that hasn't been saved, right? Notice that this little thing, right? So some of you might enjoy that just auto saving, which is fine, but you might see errors pop up. Okay, so I don't like to auto save. I just like to press Control S or Command S to save every now and then. Right. So right now this thing is savable, right? It's got two things. Let me just save this real quick. All right, and I want to do a couple of things, right? I want to export this, right? Export default const names as objects. Okay, and what that, oops, you can export default. Hang on, let me just check real quick. What's the error over here? I think it's a JavaScript related error. Hang on. So it's underlined it, right? It's found some kind of error. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Not sure what's going on. What's the error? Where's my error? Okay. All right. Once again, right, I am mildly stuck. So if anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Okay. I'm trying to export this so that this file over here can import it. Right. So my aim over here is to say import, right, names as objects from /data/names.js. Okay, so all right, only expressions, functions, or classes are allowed. Oh, so I can't actually export that as I can't export a constant or a variable. Let me see, what I do? I can make this into a function, I suppose, right? So let's do that, right? So export default function names as objects equals to a function where you just get names, you just get a return of this thing over here. Hang on a second. Let me just check to make sure I have the right number of export default const. Sorry, this is to. Hang on a second. Okay. Export default function. This thing. Okay, and then I want to return. If I got my indentation wrong, right? So I just need this to return name index. This matches with that. This matches with that. And all right. Okay, good. So I managed to change this thing over here into a function. All right. And over here now I should say the data is names as objects. All right. So what that does is it will grab the data from there from a different file. So now my app.js is not this ridiculous giant pile of nonsense. Okay. And there's an argument to be made for this thing moving to the top because it's a bit easier to read. So let's do that. Right. And if you save this, okay, as long as everything still works, it's fine, right? It doesn't matter that this thing is defined below the other because of hoisting, right? It's just hoisted to the top. Okay, so that's the general idea, all right? For this particular names app, I think it's good enough to go, right? There's a bit of, it doesn't look fantastic because of the safe area stuff, but I think it's okay. We are going to move on to the next little example, right? So I'm just going to git add dot git commit -m, some refactoring, git push. Okay, so once again, if you are trying to follow along on this one, where's my Discord? If you're trying to follow along on this one, this is which one? It's down here, right? It's this name app, right? So let me just paste it one more time for today. This is what we have. Okay. All right. So any questions? Right? Any questions? Okay. All right. Okay, so I think if we're okay, let's continue, right? And once again, I guess I should point out, where are the materials? The materials are here. There's this Google Drive folder. However, it's probably better if you just go grab it from this short link. I'm just going to paste it again for today into the workshop chat. All right, so workshop materials are in here. We are currently at unit 3, I suppose, right? It's called the list app. I do not think we will cover every single thing, okay? Stuff gets a little bit hairy later on, right? Essentially, 4 and 5, right, become a little bit harder, okay? So there's a lot of stuff to do. I will kind of pick and choose and just try to make sure that we cover the essentials, right? There's some things that, I feel like for a hackathon, you might not need to have a full-fledged database, for example, okay? So I think we might not do the full-fledged database app, okay? So, but that's okay. Let's continue on this one. This next one is kind of fun. It's a simple little app. I call it the Kueh Lapis app. You can take a look at it in the slides, right? It looks like this, okay? So we finished the names app. Okay. There's this little video over here, right? It's about using keys, right? Why your React Native actually needs keys. This is from CS50. You probably heard of CS50. It's the Harvard course where they introduce coding. They used to have a variant that introduced mobile app development, right? I quite liked it, right? That's how I learned way back in the day. It uses classes though, so the material is a little bit outdated, right? But it's still, this little video here still explains the part about why you need keys pretty well. Okay, so if you have a time, just head over there, take a look. All right. Okay, so that's kind of what we did. All right, so pretty nice. All right, so let's move on. So what we're going to do is we're going to click to generate a random color array, and then we combine this with React Navigation so that when you click on a color, it will go inside. So let's take a look. Right now, the first version, you just press add color. It will add a color at the bottom of the list. Okay, so random color, very fun, very cute. Okay, so you have a button. All right, it displays a scrollable list of random colors, and when each color is clicked, you go to the next view inside the stack. Okay, and this stack is dynamic, right? That means you click on it, it will go to the next view, and the next view will receive some parameters from the list view so that it will display the right thing. Okay, so let's go set up a new project, right? So for this, I'm going to go to my terminal. Whoa, all right, so there's a bunch of errors. Control C out of this, which means that we're done. Okay, and I'm just going to do the same thing as always, npx create expo app colors app. Okay, so at the same time, in the backend, I'm going to go create it on GitHub, okay, so that I have something to share with you. Right, so on github.com, I'm going to press plus, new repo, and I am going to say code exp23 colors app, right? Let me just check my naming convention. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so demo colors app Kueh Lapis for React. Okay, so public and nothing over here, create repository, okay, because I'm going to have to share this with you. Okay, those of you who are familiar with GitHub, you know you can invite collaborators and each of you can push to your repository. Unless you have a good reason, let's say you want to commercialize your app or something later, it's probably fine to leave it public as well. Okay, it's probably fine to leave it public. It's a thing you can put on your resume. Okay, people have made pretty decent, pretty nice GitHub resume pages. Let me show you one from my colleague / former student, Jia Chen. Right, so you can see over here that he has used this as a way to just tell people about his different projects. Okay, so some of these are GitHub links, right? Some of these are actual links to the App Store and stuff like that. Okay, but people can just click on to repositories and they can see all the different things that he's created. Right, so that makes for a pretty good resume. Right, that makes for a pretty good resume. So if anyone wants to hire this guy, they would just look through this and like, oh wow, there's all this stuff. You can customize this on your own, right? It's a free page for you to customize, and you can pin certain repositories that you're proud of. You tell people, hey, look at this, right? This is something cool that I made. Okay, and it's got some stats and like how often you've been active and things like that. Okay, so yeah, I think it's a good thing to have, right? Public repositories and nice little GitHub profile. Can't hurt, right? Can't hurt when you are applying for things like scholarships, internships, jobs, and things like that. Okay, so digression aside, I've set up my GitHub repository. Let me head over to my terminal. Right, great, it's done. I'm going to head over to Colors app, and I'm going to paste in these commands. I'm not going to make the new one because Expo has created the new repository for me. So I'm going to press copy on this, and I'm just going to paste these 3 commands. It's going to set it up, right? Set up the remote, which means that, okay, you are now linked to this GitHub repo. I've done some pre-setup in my terminal, of course, to link my terminal account over to GitHub, right? So that I'm authorized to push, right? And now that I'm done, I can share this link with all of you, right? So copy this, right? So Colors app. I just realized I was inconsistent about my spelling of colors. I apologize, right? Yeah, okay, sorry. Okay, so never mind, refresh. Okay, there we go. This is the Colors app. You can follow along as and when I push stuff. Okay, so I'm going to head over into the Colors app, and I'm just going to npm. Oh, hang on, I got my mouse got eaten up by Zoom. I'm going to do npm run iOS. Okay, that's the combination of npx expo start as well as pressing I to run it on the iOS simulator. So give me a second. Let me run this up. Okay, great. Once over here, the iOS simulator doesn't seem to like refreshing on its own. So I'm just going to press Command D and press reload. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to replace this window, file, open, folder. Actually, open is fine as well. Let me just go to developer and go to Colors app and press open. Okay, open folder and open actually kind of the same thing as far as I'm concerned, because whenever I open a folder. Okay, so all right, that's good. Now I have my app.js. Okay. All right. I think at this point I need a break. I don't know if you do, but I need a bit of a break. Okay. So let's resume at 10. Okay, let's resume at 10. I'm going to take a short break just to drink some water. I've been talking for the last like 45 to 50 minutes, and I will see you at 10. Okay, so if you're going to follow along, see if we can get this set up, right? If you don't mind just watching, right, just hang in there. For those of you watching the YouTube video, I'm in the interest of not accidentally forgetting to resume. I'm going to actually just leave this countdown on screen instead of pausing the recording. Okay, all right. Hopefully I'm recording. Am I recording? Have I been recording all this time? Yes, I've been recording. Thank goodness. Okay, so yeah, let's resume at 10. You have any questions? Discord. Thanks. Okay, we are back. I'm sharing sound as far as I know. Yes, okay, great. Okay, so we got started with our list app by literally doing nothing. Okay, we now have a get started app. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to create a list view. Okay, there's a few more things I need to do though. All right, so I've done the GitHub stuff, but I do need to install some stuff inside this to get React navigation working. That's another thing that we went through yesterday. So this is in the slides. Let me pull up the slides real quick. Okay. Close some of these, close. Okay. And some of the setup stuff is here, right? Setting up a new project. Okay. So this one, please ignore. It's not expo in it. You know what? Let me just change it because I keep forgetting. NPX create expo app. Colors app. Okay. All right. So actually, you know what? There's nothing, right? There used to be some options, right? When you created a new expo project, now they're gone. You can bring them back. There is a toggle to bring them back, right? But yep, that's it. To get started, right? Then I think after that you need to cd colors app, and you need to npx. Let me just try and fix these things while we're live. Okay, npx expo start. Okay, so these are the things that you need to do to get started with your project. Okay, so this is, starting with your GitHub. Okay, and we've kind of done all this. Okay, and finally installing React Navigation. So over here, these are the things you need to do. npm install React Navigation, native React Navigation stack. I like to do this inside this terminal, right? Control backtick, we'll pull it up, and I'm going to install React Navigation. That is a package that will give us the navigation bar, and you'll let me, like push things back on the screen using the stack. All right. Okay, so once it's installed, you're going to see the change to package.json, because this is the file that tells people what to install when they first download it. Similarly for this, let's install this. Oops, sorry. Oh, I can't do npx. I can't do, so I need to do npm install, right? React Native gesture handler and so on. Okay, so okay, so these are all a few things you want to install, all right? You can ignore these things. These tend to scare people. 14 vulnerabilities, 9 moderate, 5 high, all right? So don't worry, right? Don't worry about them, it's fine. Okay, so that's it for the setup, right? So now, okay, so your job is to convert this to a stack view. All right, your first job is to convert this stack view. If I were running a class, I would pause here, let you all try it on your own, okay? But this is a bit of a, this is just a bit of a review of stuff, okay? So if you're watching the video, right, if you want to challenge yourself, you can pause here and figure out how to make this into a stack view, all right? Which means that you have this thing up here, home, all right? And this view that you previously had now lives inside an entire stack, okay? So here's how you might do it. Let me go over here, all right? And let me close this thing over here. Let me, I don't think I need this. Hang on. I don't think I need this thing as well. Hang on, the little thing came up. Okay, so let's say I want a home screen to be inside the stack. Okay, so what I would do is I would import create stack navigator from React Navigation /stack. Okay, nice autocomplete over here. And I would actually make this into a home screen. So I could call this, instead of export default function app, I would say function home screen. Okay, of course, if I save this, there's a bit of a problem because there's no more default app. So I need to quickly create that. Const stack equals to create stack navigator. And I'm going to use this stack inside my new default export. Okay, so inside here, I'm going to return. First of all, you need to use navigation container. Okay, because that's standard for React navigation. Okay, and inside here, I'm going to have a stack.navigator. And inside here, I have a stack.screen where the name is equal to home and the component is the home screen up there. And this is a self-closing tag, so I just put a slash over here. I'm going to press save. It's going to do a bit of a reload and it will reformat my code because I installed Prettier inside here. It's refreshing and there you go. We have home over here. Okay, might not be able to tell any difference, but maybe I'll just make it a bit more obvious by giving my container a background color of EEE, which is slightly grayish, right? So you can see that the top is white and the bottom is grayish. Make it even more obvious. Okay, so yeah, there we go, right? So this is a little stack navigator, which means I'm ready to push new screens onto the screen. Okay, Next, what I'm going to ask you to do, or rather what I'm going to do myself, okay, is I'm going to make a new component called block RGB. Okay, so here is a block RGB component, right, in the components folder. This component should take 3 props: red, green, and blue. Remember what I said about hexadecimal? Okay, to define a color, right, you just need to set it as, red from 0 to 256, 0 to 255, green 0 to 255, and blue 0 to 255. Then add a few and you can get something like this. Okay, so once again, if you're watching the video version of this, feel free to pause and try it on your own, right? But those of you who are with me, I will just quickly demo this. Well, the answer is in the slides, okay? So don't worry too much. Okay, so down here, I'm going to go create, you know what? I think it's a good time to push to GitHub before I do anything, right? So git add dot git commit -m added React navigation and stack to front page. Git push. Okay, so the latest version is on GitHub right now. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to create a components folder. Okay, and inside here, I'm going to create a block RGB.js. Okay, so this thing over here is going to be a component that I want to use. Usually when you create these, you just start by importing React, because that's something you're probably going to use. And you need to import all the views that you think you're going to use. So I'm fairly certain it's going to be view and text. Okay, so there's 2 things I need inside from block RGB. Next, I need to export default function block RGB. Okay, then I need to think, what do I want to return inside my export default? Well, I definitely want a view, and I think it needs to have some background color. So I'm going to say style equals double curly brace, because I'm just going to define it in line, and I'm going to give it just to test things out, background color of, let's say, red, right? Padding of 30 and width of 100%. That will make sure that it fills up the entire width that it gets. Okay. Then down here, I need to make sure I close my view, right? And you know what? I have nothing inside, right? But never mind, I'll just leave it like this, right? So save it. Okay. And this is my block RGB. It doesn't show up, right? It's not as though I can, style it and update it and see it on the right-hand side of the screen. I need to actually put it into my home screen. So let's put that into my home screen over here. All right, so I'm going to get rid of these 2. I'm just going to put a block RGB over here. All right, so what that does is, oops, it doesn't exist. What does that mean? Because I didn't import it, right? Even though right here, right, I'm like, dude, it's right there. Why you cannot just, just go and grab it from the folder? That's just the rules, right? So you need to import block RGB from, right? And you have to be careful about this, right? If you have to get a local component, you say / start from where you are and navigate to it. Components / block RGB, right? This one you don't need the .js. Okay. All right. So, oh dear. All right. So there's something over here that says there's a render error. Let me just go check. Right. So there's 3 problems, right? One is a console warning, right? Expected a string but got undefined. Okay. And it's trying to tell me where it is. So this one you can scroll down and try and see app.js line 10, right? :7, right? So over here, right? Saying something is wrong here. Okay, so after that, you'll try and dive into any other errors. Okay, let's see what else there is. Here's an actual render error. It's just saying that, hey, something went wrong. Check the render method of home screen. Okay, it's giving me a bunch of problems, right? Let's see what we can find out about here. Okay, so down here, let's go take a look. All right, so this thing over here seems okay. Export default function block RGB, return a view. Okay. And down here, it imports block RGB from /component / block RGB. So I seem to have run into some issue. Let me take a look and see what's going on, right? Let me just, test something real quick to make sure that it's truly got to do with block RGB, right? So yes, this absolutely works, okay? So I'm going to switch back to block RGB and now it refuses. So I think the error must be inside here, right? So over here, maybe I'm just going to replace this with a text hi, right? If I save this, it still doesn't quite work. Okay, I'm wondering what's going on, right? So if anyone has any clues, right, please let me know. I will of course look around and see if I can find any obvious. If you have any ideas, let me know in the chat. Oh, I see something in the chat. Okay, is my import statement for block. Ooh, that's right. Okay, I think you're right. Okay, so thank you, Edmund, again, right? So this thing over here, right, this import curly brace. Okay, I just kind of like blindly followed the line from the previous one and I just imported with a curly brace and that didn't work. Okay, even though I exported it. Now, this will work if I do this. Okay, if I export function rather than export default function, right, this will work. Okay, but if I want to export default function, I have to import it without the curly brace. Right, so thank you, Edmund, for pointing that out to me. I am very blur from watching the Apple WWDC announcement last night. Okay, so yeah, this is a great learning point. So what's the difference, right? The one with the curly brace is for other stuff you want to export. So you can see over here, React Native, it lets you export a bunch of stuff. Okay, that's right. Lets you import a bunch of stuff. Okay, so whereas here, this is the default export. So default export doesn't have the curly braces, right? So thank you, Edmund. Fantastic, right? I remember that you helped me with something as well yesterday. Good stuff. Okay, so now, however, I need to go and bring back my thing over here. So I need to undo a few things, right? Undo. Okay, save this, and there we go, right? There is my red block. Okay, so that's nice. Now I want to take in some props so that I can actually see the red, green, and blue change. So I essentially want this. I want to say RGB. It should receive, let me check my slides. It should receive red, green, and blue props, right? So I'm going to say red equals to, let's say 255, green equals to, let's give it like 255, and blue equals to 0. Okay, so quick note, if you're passing props that are numbers, they have to be defined as JavaScript. Okay, now, this is perfectly fine, by the way, right? Even though your block RGB explicitly stated that it's going to take any props, anyone calling it is free to send over rubbish props. Okay, it's sent over a bunch of props, right? And then the block RGB is completely oblivious. It's like, haha, I don't know what's going on. All right, you send me props, I don't know, right? But if it does decide to do something with the props, right? How does it do it? It should actually go down here, right? And it should say props. Okay, so it does receive props. And now over here, we can actually, for example, console.log props. Okay, so let me save this, right? And let's go to our terminal, which is over here. All right, so it will have a log over here that says blue, green, and red. Ooh, I'll check out all these little errors. Okay, so yeah, the stuff got sent over lah, right? I got red, green, and blue sent over. It came over as blue, green, and red because it's alphabetical. That's perfectly fine. The order doesn't matter. It's not like an array. Okay, so what are we going to do with these props? We are going to put them into the background color. Okay, we're going to put them in the background color. And the way we put them in the background color is, it's a lot like CSS. There's an RGB function, right? And we're going to use your string interpolation, right? With like RGB bracket, and it takes in 3 numbers, something like 255, 2550. Okay, so instead of 255, 2550, if I just save this, of course it's going to be yellow, right? But what I want to do is I want to take in props.red here. So $curly brace props.red, $curly brace props.green, $curly brace props.blue. Right, if I save this, okay, it's still yellow, but that's because over here we sent in 255, 2550. If I send in, let's say 25500, it will become red color. All right, so that's nice, right? If I send in, I don't know, 170, 127, sure. All right, and you get a little orange color. Okay, pretty nice, pretty nice. We now have a decently working block RGB. And what we can do is we can copy and paste this to get a few more. Right, so let's say 255, let's flip the numbers around a bit. And this is 127, this is 0. Right, so just get a mix of some colors over here. Very nice. Okay, I want these to be aligned to the top. Okay, so that's a style of the container. Okay, so style container, one of these is putting them in the middle. I can never remember which one is horizontal, which one is vertical. So I'm just going to delete one, press save, and see whether that works. That didn't work. So I just delete the other. Okay, this is my trial and error method for never remembering which one is horizontal, which one is vertical. Okay, so great. Now I have this thing, and we are good to go for this segment. All right, so pretty nice. All right, let's commit this and push. So git add dot. Added block RGB component. Git push. All right. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. So now what we want to do is, instead of having to manually create these things, all right, instead of having to manually create these things, what we're going to do is we're going to use a state variable with an array. Okay, we're going to use a state variable with an array. All right, but okay lah, let's do it one step at a time. First, let's go create array of colors. Okay, so something like this: const color array equals to square bracket. Okay, and inside here I'll have red 255, green 127, blue 0. Right, and let's give it an ID just because I know that we need an ID later on. Okay, so for each of these, I'm just going to copy and paste. Right, and this is of course not how we're going to define it for real, but this is just a way of getting us started. Like 0, 127, 255, and this one will be 25. I'm just going to change the numbers a little bit so that it's a little bit of variety. Okay, 255. Okay, so this is the color array. I'm going to get this to map through the color array. Okay, I'm going to get this to go through the color array and render it. And the way we do that is by using your flat list. Okay, so let's say you have color array, you're storing this array somewhere. It's got a whole bunch of data. What we're going to do is we are going to go through them. And it's not by using a map. We're going to use this thing called a flat list. And the flat list is going to optimize the storage and display of these. So the way we do that. Okay, first things first, don't forget, we need to import flat list from React Native. Okay, so this thing down here is a flat list. So flat list, let's give it a style, styles.list. Okay, let's give it a data. Data is just color array. Let's give it a render item. This one, I don't know what the render item is. Let's just say render RGB, render block RGB. Okay, and maybe we need a key extractor, right? So a key extractor would be something like actually, you know what? Let's leave out the key extractor first. Okay, let's leave out the key extractor. So slash, okay, let's delete all this. Right now, if you save it, it's going to give you an error because it doesn't have this render block RGB item here. So let's create that, right? Let's go make this thing over here and do a function, render block RGB. Okay, render block RGB receives an item and its job is to just return, okay, a block RGB where red equals to item.red, green equals to item.green, and blue equals to item.blue. Okay, so if I save this, right, there we go. Okay, the styling is a bit odd, okay, mainly because your flat list is not at 100% width, right? Each of these blocks tries to be 100% width, okay, but the flat list itself has currently 0 width. It just takes on whatever width it can. So I'm going to go down here and style my list width of 100%. Okay, so that it's back to normal size. All right, so great. There we go. So now we can define our stuff separately. Previously, we had it as, you know, block RGB, block RGB, block RGB. And now we just need to give a nice little array. So let's just add another one, green 0 to 100, ID 3. Okay, notice it didn't complain about the key extractor, right? That's because we already have a property called ID inside. All right, so that's actually a nice little way to just avoid having to do that if you truly don't want to bother. Okay, so that's nice. That's nice. However, this thing is a static array, right? This thing is a static array. Remember our goal? Our goal was to be able to have this be a dynamic array where you can press add color and you'll keep adding colors to the bottom for you. In order to do that, your array needs to be a state variable. Okay, so quick recap. State variables are essentially things that will help update your UI when they change. Okay, so every time they change, it's like they are this like noisy kid, right? They're like, hello, like this noisy baby lah. Okay, so there's this baby, it pooped, and then every time it poops, it's like, wow, please change my diapers, right? Completely not relatable for you folks, but never mind. Okay, but yeah, that's the general idea. Okay, it's a very noisy baby. All right, so every time something changes, it will cry and it will update the UI. Okay, so right now this will not. Right? First of all, it's a const, right? It's a constant. I can't change it. Okay, but even if I change it to a let, right, which is an array, which is a variable, okay, even if I add to it, it's not going to update. Right? I do need to make this a state variable. Okay, so how do I make it a state variable? Well, here we go. We need to go use this thing called useState. Okay, so the way we use useState is we define it as follows: const color array comma, set color array equals to react.useState. Okay, so previously you saw me, oh wait, I didn't even import React. Okay, never mind. Right, let me go import use state from React. Okay, so I'm just going to use state. Okay, and inside use state, you can give it a starting array. So you know what? Why don't we just use this starting array right here? Copy and paste this. Right? Copy this. Paste it inside here, no semicolon. Okay, so what this does is that it just converted it into a state variable, right? Using this use state hook. Okay, so it uses use state from React, and then it just puts it inside here. And this is the starting value. Later on, when you actually start your app, you probably don't want anything. You can just delete all these things. Okay, it will be a completely blank array to start with. All right, but for now, it's good to have something to show the users just to get started. All right. Okay, so any questions on this so far? Let me push this up, right? So push this up. So git add dot git commit -m added flat list and state variable. Okay, pretty nice, right? Looks good. Right now we want to be able to add a button on top. Okay, you're gonna add a button up here such that every time you press it, it will add something to this colors array. Okay, so again, if you're watching the video, you can probably pause here and see if you can figure it out, right? You remember you have to use a set color array. You can't just directly append to the array. You do need to add an ID key to each object, and also you need to get a random number. Okay, right now these are all like preset numbers in my head, right? So you need to get a random number. Okay, so yeah, think about that. Pause. Okay, before we do that though, I want to point out something. I think I mentioned destructuring in JavaScript yesterday, and there are two opportunities for us to use it here. Okay, in block RGB, right? Notice that I just say props.red, props.green, and props.blue. Okay, if I don't want to do that, right? I don't want the rest of the props. I can do this. I can press open curly brace, type red, green, blue. What it does is it extracts the values from the properties from prop inside here. So red, green, and blue, and it just assigns the values to those, right? So it might look a little bit cleaner. If you do it this way, right? Still works, right? Just a bit of refactoring into props, right? So I destructured the property, I destructured the struct into different components. I can also do it here, right? Here, this item, right? I can do this. I can do another set of curly braces, and I'm just doing this, just to prove a point. All right. So now I don't need to say item.red, item.green, item.blue, right? But the trade-off is now I have two sets of curly braces. Okay, did I actually do that? No. Oh wait, sorry, I cannot. Okay, so because so item is already a destructure of the stuff that comes in. Okay, if I really want to destructure it, I can do this. I can do it like this: red, green, blue equals to item. Okay, and then what that does is it lets me, hang on, let me re-admit Sean, who has dropped off. Give me a second. Okay, hang on, let me make him a co-host. Okay, cool. All right, so what this lets me do is, this is the manual destructuring. So I'm actually going to just do it like this. I'm going to say, hey, I got this item thing, right? I can't actually destructure it further automatically because this is already a destructuring, all right? And I'm just going to say, okay, let red, green, blue equals item. So just pick out the item.red, assign it to red, pick out item.green, assign it to green, pick out item.blue and assign it to blue, right? Then I can do it over here. Okay, so I'm just going to commit and push this. Okay, so the latest version is up on GitHub. Okay, so to make a button, right? I wanted to make a button above the above this thing over here. All right, so let's do that. Okay, so let's use, I have two choices for button, right? I can use either button, which is less customizable, or touchable opacity, which is more customizable. All right, I think I'll just stick with the regular button. So down here, I need to import button. And up here, right, before my flat list, I am just going to put a button. Okay, so I'm just going to say button, right? Button has on press equals to something. Okay, so I'm just going to need to create this function later. Let's call it add color. Okay, and title, right? It goes to add color. Okay, so add color doesn't exist. Of course it doesn't, right? We haven't written it. So function add color. Okay, open bracket, close bracket. And I'll do nothing for now, but it exists. Okay, so now I have this add color thing, right, which in theory should add some color underneath. Okay, so that's a little button. Now the hard part is figuring out add color. What does add color actually do? So add color's job is to take color array. Well, add color's job is to first generate a random color. Let's write it out, right? So first things first, we need to generate a random color. Well, 3 random colors. Okay, put them into an object. Okay, and append it to the color array. Okay, so I just kind of like doing this to just remind myself what I need to do. Okay, so let's generate 3 random colors. How do we do that? Well, you know what? Let's go Google for it, right? So if you have ChatGPT, you know what, that's actually a good place to ask, right? But let's say JavaScript get random integer between 0 and 255, right? And there's a good chance that you will get something over here, right? You know what, ChatGPT is pretty great for these. You don't actually need to read through people's answers, okay? But yeah, there you go. Math.floor, math.random times this. Okay, so I'm going to say const red equals to math.floor bracket math.random times 256. Okay, so that's red, green, and blue. Okay, so that's 3 colors I've done. I'm going to put them into an object, right? So I'm going to say const color object equals to curly brace, red, green, blue. Okay, now the problem comes is I need an ID. Okay, the ID needs to be a number that's always increasing. Okay, so my idea here is that I'm going to use the length of the array. Okay, so I'm going to say color array dot length dot toString. Okay, so I think that should be okay, right? What that does is it creates a new object, right? And it uses red. This one just says red, green, blue because it's actually doing this like red colon red, green colon green, and blue colon blue. Okay, so the red property will take this value. I can see these two color match, right? Green property take this value, but there's a shorthand. The shorthand is that if that happens, you can just use this. Okay, you just say red, green, blue, and then the ID. Finally, let's append it to the array. Okay, you can't actually just say color array dot append, right? There's no append, right? Color array equals color array plus that, right? So it's a bit troublesome, right? You actually need to set a brand new array, right? Which has the old stuff plus the new thing added on to the end, which is a little bit weird when you think about it, right? It's as though when you lend your homework to your friend, okay, then they return you a brand new copy, except they copied out the entire thing for you, and then they added something at the end, right? Rather than just, directly marking on it. Okay, but that's how these things work. Okay, it's in the back end, right? Just by knowing that the thing has changed, that's how you trigger a UI refresh. Okay, so I'm going to create a new array first, right? So the new array, const new array equals to angle to this bracket, okay? And you would probably think that you want to just, iterate through the old one, copy it, and then add a new one to it, right? But there's a shorthand. You can just do this, ... color array, comma, followed by color object. Okay, so this thing is the spread operator, right? Which is one of the JavaScript features that I briefly mentioned yesterday. Okay, so this spread operator just means take the take everything that used to belong in color array, right, and lay it out, as individual objects so that they can be part of this new array together with the new color object. Okay, so finally, when we're done, we can say set color array, right, new array. All right, that is a lot of code, right? But let's see whether that works. If I press add color, right, there we go, right? We have new stuff, okay? Unfortunately, I encountered 2 children with the same ID, same key, right? So I suspect my array.length thing doesn't quite work. Let me just think about it. Maybe I need to +1, right? So let's try. Okay, so let me just refresh this real quick. So I'm going to Command D, reload this, right, just to make sure. Maybe it just overlapped. Well, I could be wrong, right? Interesting, right? So I think what's happening is that it's not updating the color length quickly enough for it. So let me just check real quick. I encountered two children with the same key. All right, function to string native code. Oh, I see. Okay, I know what the mistake is, right? It should be to string open bracket, close bracket. It's a function, okay? So what happened was that I tried to give it a pointer to that function, right? And that's not what I want. I want the actual value, okay? So let's try this again. All right, so now no more complaints, and it's happily giving me all these different colors, okay? By the way, of course, you know that the flat list will help me scroll automatically. I don't need to create my own scroll view, right? So nice, all right? I have all these random colors available on the screen. Pretty cool, okay? I guess one way to avoid this is you can use string interpolation, right? You can use backtick, dollar curly brace, But I find that this is a bit hard to read, right? You're just like trying to convert this to a string by plonking it into a string, and then I do, right? But yeah, we won't make the same mistake as I did, which is the toString open bracket, close bracket, right? It's a function, not a property. Okay, so I hope this kind of makes sense, right? And if you realize that, oh, I kind of don't like it when I need to add color and it goes to the bottom, right? Maybe you can think about how you would add it to the top. Okay, so let me just pause for dramatic effect. How would you add a new color to the top? Okay, it's got to do with this thing over here, right? Right now you are appending the contents of the old array first before you append the new thing. So instead you could do this, right? Delete this. Oops, put it before and like that. Okay, so let me reload this entire thing. So now any new color that I add will show up at the top, right? Which is a bit more visual way to work, right? Why do I get so many dirty longkang color here? Who knows, man? It's all just random. Okay, so yeah, that's our little Kueh Lapis at the part 1. All right, doing, very fun. Okay, so I'm going to git add and git commit this. Added a button to add new color. Okay, so I hope the logic of this kind of makes sense, right? If you need to see any of the code that's not on screen, you can always go to the GitHub, which is on the Discord. One of the things that I guess I would like to do, right, and again, for the people watching on the video, or if you want to try this on your own later, is how to add a reset button. Right, very troublesome, right? I want to reset, I have to essentially quit the entire app and reload it, right? Maybe I should add a reset button? Sure. Okay, so let's try that. So over here, I think I can do without this starter array already. So I can just delete this. Okay, so this is just a use state with a blank array, right? Every time you change a state variable, it will reload the page. Okay, so now I can add color and get new stuff, right? But if I want to reset, no way to do it. Okay, so how do I make the reset work? Okay, so let's have a reset button right underneath our add color button. So down here, let's scroll down. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, paste it, right? And I'm going to have reset colors and reset. Okay, I am fully aware that my spelling of color has gone haywire, right? One is American and one is British. Sorry. Okay, function reset colors. Okay, so this one you can probably guess what to do. You can just set color array to nothing. That's it, right? That is your reset. Okay, so if I press reset, goodbye, everything is gone, right? And it updates the screen. Press add, press reset, press add, press reset. Okay, right? Things about this, right, is that, you know, you're working with a paradigm where if you update the variable, the screen updates by itself. Okay, this might seem fairly intuitive, but it's actually kind of a new thing, right? Only in the last 10 years or so, when you know, I think processing power has caught up and it's just easier to do things this way. Because otherwise, if you had started doing your imperative programming, right? If you had started with like basic JavaScript, okay, if you went through any of the courses that the Codecademy courses that we sent to you, okay, if you actually learned about JavaScript that way, is usually what happens is that there's a web page, you change a variable. When the variable changes, you need to manually go and update the web page. Okay, that is the traditional way of doing things, and that's how it's been for very long. Then along came things like React. Okay, in React, what happens is, and the name suggests this, you know, React is reactive. Okay, it's actually looking at your variable and seeing, hey, this changed, then I better update my UI. Okay, so it's a slightly different way of thinking, right? If you ever come from the imperative way of programming, where you have to keep track of your own variables and update them, okay, it's a slightly different way of doing things, right? So now reset colors, very simple. You just reset colors because the array on screen depends on the array in my state variable. I just reset my state variable to nothing, right? If there's nothing inside my state variable, then there is nothing on screen. Then I'm good to go. Okay, so add color, reset colors, add color, reset colors. Okay, all right. Whereas if you had to do this manually, it's very easy to lose track. You know, I mean, I need to like, oh, I need to delete, reset my array, and then I need to tell my screen to stop rendering stuff. Okay, so there's a serious advantage of doing this in that it's a lot less of a mental load, but you need to set it up properly, right? You need to do a bit of setup. Okay, so you need to use these things, use these special ways of doing things. Okay, all right. Okay, so now part two, right? Part two, let's move on. Okay, I think I can continue for a bit before we go for a short break, right? So we've done part one, right? Part two is down here. Okay, so part two is when we combine this with React navigation. Okay, so that when the users tap on the color, they can see some details about it, right? In a second screen. Okay, so this will involve us passing information from one part of the stack to another part of the stack. Okay, which is actually really quite a good thing to be able to do when you are dealing with many different screens, right? You don't want to have a separate screen for every single thing, right? You want a screen that can be reused for different components. All right, so let's do that. We're going to use these things called navigation props to send them down. Okay, so you probably recall props from, you know, like half an hour ago. Okay, props are essentially these things, right? So here, when we create a new block RGB, we pass in all these props, red, green, and blue, and block RGB will be like, okay, I get them in my props argument, and I destructure them, and I use them. Okay, but if you try and go from one page to another inside a stack navigation, it's actually a bit harder because you never directly actually create these things. Okay, let me show you what I mean. All right, so let's go first make a new detail screen. All right, let's go make a new detail screen. So I'm going to put under components, press plus, right? Details screen.js. Okay, so for detail screen.js, I'm just going to import I'm just going to import, I guess, view and text from React Native as usual. And I'm just going to export default function, detail screen, open bracket, close bracket. And I'm just going to return a text that says, hello, this is the details screen. Okay, not super interesting right now, all right? But my aim is to have stuff go over to the detail screen. So now I need to import detail screen. This time, let's do it properly, right? Without the curly braces. Okay, autocomplete has done it for me. That's great. Okay, import detail screen from /components and detail screen. Just be careful lah. When autocomplete does it for you, maybe you made a mistake along the way. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to add the detail screen to the stack. Okay, so I'm going to say stack.screen name equals to details, component equals to detail screen. Okay, that's simple enough. I've added it to the stack. There's still no way to get to the stack though, right? There's still no way to get to the detail screen yet. All right, so how do I do that? Well, I need to make it such that each one of my block RGBs, when tapped on, okay, each one of my block RGBs, where are they? Here, okay. Each one of my block RGBs, when they are tapped on, will go to a new screen. Okay, so how do I do that? Well, I probably want a touchable opacity. Okay, because touchable opacity can make a button out of anything. So touchable opacity, actually touchable is fine, but I just like touchable opacity. All right, so when you save, notice that it's like, hey, too many things on one line. Let's put it on separate lines. Okay, good. It's always good to have these things help you out. And this thing down here, I'm going to put brackets around it, right? Put round brackets around it. And I'm going to put here touchable opacity. Okay, on press equals to, I'm going to give it a blank function first. Hopefully recognize that there's a blank function. Okay, and close this, and I'm going to surround my block RGB with it. Okay, so right now, these are all null buttons. I can tap on them. Oop, tap, tap, tap. Okay, nothing happens because my function is empty. How then do I navigate? Okay, so in order to navigate, hopefully you recall from yesterday, each of these screens inside the stack will receive a navigation prop, right? Will receive a navigation prop. So I'm going to curly brace, destructure out the navigation prop, and destructure out the navigation property in the props prop. Okay, and I'm going to say navigation.navigate details screen. Okay, so this needs to navigate over to the, oh, not detail screen, details. I need to navigate over to details. So this name over here needs to match the name down here, details. Okay. All right, so this is my update. Okay, so I've added this touchable opacity around it, and if I tap on it, there we go, right? It sends me to the detail screen. Okay, that's a good start. That's a good start. So now they all send to the same screen. This same screen is now responsible for rendering that color, okay, and just displaying it to the user. So we need to send over the data somehow. But you look at this, right? It just says navigation.navigate details. Contrast that to this thing where we can actually create props. This one, where to put the props? Okay, I can't put it here, right? It's just a string. I can't put it here, right? Because the props haven't even shown up yet in this over here, right? And there's nothing to send over. Okay, so how do I send it over? We're going to need something called navigation props. Okay, all right, but you know what? Before that, let's commit our changes. Okay, just good git hygiene. So git add dot git commit -m added details screen. Okay. Right. So any questions on this so far? Let me just pause right now. I just realized I haven't checked my Discord in a while, so I hope everything's going okay over there. Right, I haven't really sent anything over there for a while. Okay, seems fine. If you have any questions, right, please let me know. Right, if you want to do some counting during the lesson, you know what, I'm not gonna stop you. Okay, but yeah. All right, so let's continue. I'll see if I can finish this up before the break. All right, so we're going to send the data over. All right, and we are going to print it out. Okay, so this one, okay, it's a little bit troublesome, but I think let's see how much I can do right now. Okay, so when we do navigation, all right, we will this navigate function. Okay, you can send over some parameters like this, comma, and then some parameters. Okay, then inside detail screen, you can just destructure a route. Right, you destructure a route, and then it will be able to get the parameters over here. So let's just try, right? So let's just say hello world. Okay, so I'm sending over a parameter called hello world, right? And inside here, I just need to destructure a route. Okay, and inside this route, the route has a params thing. Okay, so I'm just going to say hello. This is the thing you sent, colon. All right, so let's head over to JavaScript and let's go grab route.params.hello. Okay, so let's try it out. Right, this one is a bit tricky because there's no way to actually check. All right, so let's. Okay, so it sent world. Right, not bad. Okay, so that's one way to send over data. Right, look very carefully over here. If I send hello world, if I send hello banana, okay, then I can tap on this. I sent banana. Okay, so hopefully this gives you an idea of what to do, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to send over the data. Right, let's send over the data. And the way we do that is let's do details colon, right? We could do this, by the way. We could do actually item, right? So I'm going to say, we could just send over item, right? But that's not quite right. Item has three things inside. So we could send over red, green, blue. Okay, that's not bad, right? We send over red, green, blue. Okay, we send over red, green, blue. Then under details, we're going to say route.params.red. Okay, comma. Let's see if I can print them all out. Route.params.green. Okay, this is a bit troublesome. Let's put it on separate lines. Route.params.red, green, and blue. Okay, so let's go back. Let's send this over. Right, 133.177.16. 21.156.83. Okay. 161.8.154. Okay, so that's not bad. We managed to send it over, but we can do it a bit better, right? Over here, red, green, blue. Instead of doing it like this, we technically just want the stuff from item to send over. So we can also spread. We can also spread item. Okay, so we saw spread just now on an array. Now you see spread on an object. Okay, when you do spread on an object, it will just, kind of like, get into its components, right? And it will just create each of them bit by bit, right, in the new object that you created. This does mean that you might send over other rubbish as well, but that's okay, I guess. Okay, so when it reaches over here, right, it will have the same result. Okay, so let's just test it out real quick. Right, it still works. Okay, so we are almost done, right? We're almost done. What we're going to do now is we probably want to display it on screen nicely, and we want to set the background color of the detail screen. Okay, so for this, I think I will take a bit of a break, right? I think this was a good time to pause again, right? Here's the final result that we're looking for, right? So if anyone wants to try this out yourself, okay, you can go and grab my code from GitHub. Let me just show you the final results that we're looking for. We're looking for something like this, right? So you tap on it, it will show red, green, blue, right? Add color, add color, add color, tap on it, it'll show red, green, blue. If you want to be really clever about it, you realize that some of this is harder to see, right? When it's a darker color, like it's going to click on the dark red, very hard to see. Maybe you can make it white color in that case. Okay. So I'll give everyone about, let's say, until 11 for this segment. Like, let's take a bit of a break, and you can try it out if you want. Let me first push my stuff over, right? So git add dot git commit -m send data over the route params git push. Okay, so if you want, you can go pull my latest copy or just download it from GitHub. There's a download button, and you can try from there. We will resume at 11. Let me just go grab my little countdown timer. Here it is. All right, so that's a bit of a longer break, right? Feel free to take a chance, get a breather. I need to drink some water. Okay, so any questions? Let us know. See you in a bit. I'm back. All right, let's continue. Let me drag this little panel over to our other screen and let's get going. Okay, so welcome back. I hope you had a good break, good toilet break, enjoyed yourself. That came out wrong, never mind. Okay, let's continue. So I asked, last I left off, I asked you all to consider helping me with one thing, which I've forgotten. What did I ask you to help me with? My brain function is not very good. Sorry. Old person cannot operate on 3 hours of sleep. I need more coffee for the afternoon session. Okay, so I asked you to what did I ask you to do? I blur already, cannot remember. Okay, so I asked you to, that's right, I sent over the data, right? But all it did was print it out, right? Which is pretty stupid, huh? Right, so we actually want to print it out and maybe set the background color. All right, so let's do that. I think it's not the most difficult thing to do. First of all, right, I think what we want to do is let's destructure stuff. Okay, I love destructuring. So I'm going to say const red, green, blue equals to route.params. Okay, hopefully you can see why that is a way to destructure out red, green, and blue. So you don't really keep typing route.params.red, route.params.green, route.params.blue. Okay, so that's great. All right, so now if I want to, you know what, I can start using this, right? You know what, I don't need this. Okay, so I'm going to have a text, right, that says, let's say red colon red. Okay, sorry, Prettier has decided to take away my round brackets. So red, okay, green and blue. All right, so green. And finally, I need blue. Okay, this is an error, okay, and there's an error over here. Let's see if I can actually see what the error is. All right, I can't see what the error is, but if I save it, it should tell me the error, right? Adjacent JSX elements must be wrapped in an enclosing tag, okay, which means that you can't return 3 things, right? You can't return 3 things. You can return this using a fragment. Okay, sometimes you do want to return a few things in a row, okay, which is like that, right? But you know what? Why not just use a view? Okay, why not just use a view? All right, so view and then over here /view, right? View is kind of like a little div anyway, right? So not bad, right? Not bad. What we want now is we want to perhaps set the background color on this. So let's do style equals to open curly brace. Okay, and I think I need more than one style. Okay, I think I need more than one style over here. All right, I need some styles that are preset, and I need some styles that are custom, which is depending on red, green, and blue. Okay, see if you remember how to do that. First of all, I'm going to go copy over my style object because I can never remember how to make it. So I'm just going to copy this, and I need to import style sheet. Okay, and down here, right, I just need to make a, let's call it a container. Right, and the container, usually I just do flex1 and justify content center. Okay, and align items center. Okay, and this thing over here, of course, I should probably do styles dot container. Right. Some people trip up a bit on this because style and styles. Okay, style is the name of the prop. Styles is the name of the style sheet. Okay, of course you can call it style sheet anything you want. You can call it banana. All right, but let's not call it banana. Now the thing is, I want to append more styles to this. I want this style as a start, but I want more styles after that. Right, the way we do that is we put this into an array. Okay, so select it, press the open square bracket. Okay, then we add on whatever style we want next. Okay, the style we want next is open curly brace, and inside here I want it such that it has the background color of kind of similar to what we did before, right? So RGB : $curly brace red, $curly brace green, $curly brace blue. Okay, so great, there we go, right? So now we've got this nice little thing where I tap on this, right? And I actually get the details of it, right? Okay, so some of the colors are not so easy to see. Let's say we go for a really dark color, right? We go here, a bit hard to see, right? So you could fix that, right? You could fix that. It's a little bit troublesome, okay? Because you're going to have to append styles to each of these text objects. right? One thing is that you can't actually update this little style sheet down here with the stuff that comes in through your props because it's created separately from your function. Okay, it's a separate thing that just lives around. All right, so you can't actually go ahead and say, oh, I can't put my red, green, and blue parameters inside here. Okay, so if you want to set it such that, okay, these three texts, we want them such that they are different color, can. Okay, so let's say you just be like, okay, const, all right, light mode, or sorry, let's call it dark mode, right? Dark mode happens when, let's say red plus green plus blue is greater than, I need another bracket, is greater than, what's 128 times 3, 384, let's say greater than 300, okay? Once this is greater than 300, we are going to set it to be true, otherwise it's false, right? This is a ternary operator. We just say, hey, if these things add up to less than 300, right? Less than 300. If they're less than 300, okay, then it's dark mode, which means that I want to turn on dark mode, which means that my color down here should be light. Okay, so let's see whether that helps. All right, down here, right, you can actually use this thing in Visual Studio Code where you edit 3 lines at once. I'm holding down my Option and Shift key on the Mac. I think on Windows it's Control Shift. Okay, I don't remember, sorry. Okay, but what that lets me do is I can now update 3 and I feel very clever. Okay, so very nice. I can say style equals to open curly brace, double open curly brace. And inside here, I can say, okay, I want my color to be, if it's dark mode, I want it to be white. Otherwise, I want it to be black. Okay, so there we go, right? So now what that means is that for every single one of these styles, right, it will check based on this dark mode. Okay, you know what? I could, of course, do white and black here, then I don't need to do another question mark, don't need to do another ternary operator down here, huh? But never mind, bear with me. This is just educational purposes. Okay, so I check whether it's dark mode based on the sum of all 3 numbers. Okay, I just arbitrarily chose 300 and 300 because I know the maximum total of all 3 is 255 times 3. That's about 800 and something. Okay, yes, 255 times 3. Yes, correct. Okay, so no, 760. Okay, 700 something. Okay, math. Can't do math, sleepy. Okay, so anyway, I know that less than 300 means it's not very bright color, so it means I should switch over to light or white color text. Okay, so down here, right, the coolest thing that I've done is I just use Option Shift and I can select multiple lines and do column editing. Okay, so now I can edit all these columns at one time, right? Sometimes it makes more sense sometimes than others. Okay, so pretty nice. Let's go check it out with some of the other colors like this thing. Oh, much easier to see. Whereas this thing, it stays as the black color, right? So I think seem to have done pretty well for us, right? To add more colors. Some of these, yeah, okay, some of these are a bit hard to tell, right? But yes, I think overall it works pretty well. Okay, all right. So let's git add dot. Let's git commit. Finish detail screen and push. Okay, pretty nice. All right. I have a couple of optional challenges for you, but see whether we can get to them. Okay. I want to actually show you something, right? Which we will cover again later, right, in the afternoon session. But I think it's good to mention it now since this add color, very strange lah, right? I don't feel like it belongs here. Okay, if you've ever used any app, right, you're like, a bit weird. Okay, I think it should belong here. We should put it inside the navigation bar. Correct, right? I feel like it belongs better in the navigation bar. So let's put it in the navigation bar, right? I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. So the way we do that is using something called header buttons, right? So let me just head back to my Chrome. Header buttons in React navigation. Right, so let me just go search for it using Google, right? Header buttons. Okay, so if you want to add a header button, right, you just go to the stack.screen, right? And you have options equals to header title, props, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's the title, right? So you can actually put an entire view inside the title rather than just pure text. Okay, and then whereas the other one is header right. Okay, header right, you can on press alert, this is a button. Okay, so that could work. All right. However, right, that there's a bit of a problem if we do it that way, right? So down here, you see this thing over here, if I try and define it within the stack.screen, it has no access to the add color function. Can you see? Right, this app.js, this app thing that we have, it has no access to the add color function, which lives inside the home screen. Okay, so that's not going to work. All right, what we do instead is we do this slightly interesting workaround. Right, let's see if they go into more detail on that. All right, header interaction with screen components. Okay, components in the header need to interact with the screen component. That's what we have, right? We need to use set options to update our options. Okay, and we get access to the screen's props, state, and context, etc., etc. Okay, so that could work, I think. Right, I'm not sure if we can get that much things. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so down here, right, notice that suddenly there's this thing called use effect. Okay, it's a brand new hook, and I think it's a good time to talk about this brand new hook. All right, so that's what I'm going to quickly run through. Okay, so use effect is a fairly complex hook. Okay, but the things that it does are fairly simple if you just break it down. Okay, we'll go through this in a bit more detail. Use effect in this case, all right, currently says, okay, do set options, right? Do set options. And then inside here, right, it will do something. Okay, it will do something inside the navigation, right? So notice the way it's set up, right? This is the overall, this is their app.js, this is their app, this is the overall stack. Okay, like for us, this is this thing over here. My scrolling. If anyone has any ideas how to fix my scrolling, let me know. Right, y'all are very good answering my questions when I need help. So if anyone has any ideas for how to fix my nonsense scrolling, I'm using a Logitech, and it's just scrolling very badly on Visual Studio Code. You see what rubbish this is. Okay, but never mind. Right, aside, don't worry. Okay. Anyway, so you see this thing over here, right? This is equivalent to their stack screen. Okay, so header right just as a button. Okay, it doesn't have any actions right now, right? But over here in the home screen, it says, hey, header right, this is the function you need to run. Okay, so without going into use effect, right? It's just this is what's actually happening. Okay, so let's try that, right? Let's try that. So let's try and follow this example. Okay, let's try and follow this example. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go over here and I'll be like, okay, I want my home screen to be the one with the extra button. Okay, and the home screen is going to have a header right. And the way we do that is I have this option. You know what? I'm just going to copy this entire thing, right? So options goes all the way to probably here. I think I might have copied an extra thing, but I think I'm fine. Copy this, right? So let's go paste it over here. Save. Okay, error. Okay, that's fine. All right, header title, I don't need because I'm pretty happy with the header title. Okay, so this one, you're adding a placeholder button without the on press to avoid flicker. Okay, let me close this thing so I can see more. Right, so save this. Right, there we go. It's got update count. Okay, I don't quite want that. Let me just put a plus button over here. Okay, so if you don't like this, right, you can actually, instead of a button, you can have a touchable opacity with font awesome and things like that. Right, but for now, I'm just going to have a little plus button over here. Right, and right now it does nothing. Okay, step one, right? We've managed to set up a plus button. Okay, if you want to add more, we can try adding more later. Maybe we can move the reset as well. All right, but for now, that's good. What we are going to do is we are going to say, okay, inside here, all right, we're going to say header in home screen, right? Their home screen is our home screen also. Ours is also called home screen. Okay, home screen as well. Inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to use this react.useEffect. Let's copy and paste this. Okay, they do take in the navigation prop to do this, and let's put it over here. All right, so I'm going to save this. Right, and it says there's a bunch of stuff going on. Right, first of all, what is property React doesn't exist. Okay, that's because we are importing directly. So I'm going to import use effect from React. Okay, and I'm just going to do it like this. Okay, so now what it does is it kind of replaces it. Okay, notice that I tried very hard just now to make a button, right? And then it was a plus. Okay, so we just, as you can see over here in the comment, it says add a placeholder button without on press to avoid flicker. Okay, so all right, that's fine. I'm going to change this thing up here to equals to plus as well. Okay, So if I press this, right, it will give me an error because it tries to run this function, which is essentially is a counter lah. Okay, so instead of that, what function do you want to run? We know, right? We just want to add color. Okay, this one you don't even need to wrap it inside anything. You can just do add color. On press equals to add color. You press this button. There we go. Wait a minute. What's going on? Okay, so kind of cool, right? Kind of cool, but the problem is that you will that's got to do with this navigation thing over here. Right, so let me just delete that. It's a very subtle change, right? Let me just save this. Okay, now it works perfectly fine. Okay, so that's quite a lot of effort just to get something into the stupid title bar, right? But let me just make it worth our while by deleting away this the first thing inside there. Okay, so I can get rid of the add color, right? In fact, you can just comment it out if you don't want it. Comment out is, I don't think I mentioned, command /, and the way you comment out is to go to JavaScript mode and comment out the JSX. Okay, a bit strange, but it works. Okay, so that's gone. All right, so let me reset the colors, and there we go. Right now we have this thing in the title bar. You can probably do the same thing for header left as well, right? But let me just quickly review what is use effect. Okay, use effect is a little React hook that does a bunch of things. Okay, so what this does is that it takes in 2 arguments. Okay, it takes in 1 or 2 arguments, right? If you just give it 1 argument, it will run this function, right? Whatever's inside is its first, the first argument, right? It's a function, okay? It will run this function after every render. Okay, so that means after every time you update the screen, it will just go and plonk a plus button over there. Okay, it's a bit ridiculous, right? You think about it, you're like, wow, why so troublesome, right? Every time you update the screen, you plonk a button over there, right? That's because you are essentially trying to tell someone else to do it for you. Okay, it's not something that lives within this home screen view. Okay, you are trying to tell your parent view, the stack controller, the stack container, right, to do this for you. Okay, so every time you render, you just tell your, hey, excuse me, can you add this button with this function, right? That calls this function, right? Add color. Okay. Previously, we had this thing with a second argument, comma, navigation. All right. And this is another use of use effect, right? So let me reset the colors. When we did it that way, right, let me reset the colors. Okay, it doesn't quite reset, never mind. All right. When we do it that way, okay, this thing will actually only add the button, okay, once at the beginning, okay, when the navigation has been set up, right? That means it will not refresh it again. So it leads to some refresh issues lah. Okay, when you take this away, it will just refresh all the time, which seems like, wow, very troublesome, right? You are essentially asking your screen to re-render itself on every button press. But you know what? That's actually happening that's happening all the time anyway, right? Every time you press a button, you are re-rendering the entire screen. Your phone can handle it, right? We are at a point where your phones are super fast computers. You don't need to worry about them actually handling all these things. Okay, so that's use effect, right? Use effect is commonly used for side effects. Okay, side effects, what are side effects? Side effects are essentially things that happen a bit outside of your function. Okay, so what does all that mean? Okay, so there's this concept called pure functions, right? Pure functions are essentially functions that only manipulate stuff within themselves. They don't go out and modify other stuff, right? They don't go out and change any global variables. They don't go out and modify, global state or things like that. Okay, they are pure functions, right? Very innocent. Side effects are things that happen when you modify outside your own scope. All right, so if you modify outside your own scope, that's going to cause a little bit of trouble, right? We try to avoid that, but sometimes it cannot be helped. In this case, you need to tell your parent view to update you for you. Okay, so that's what's happening, right? This particular screen needs to tell its parent view, which contains the stack container, to update this button to use a function from within this screen. Okay, what are other instances of use effect? We will see them in the afternoon or maybe later, right, if I have time. Okay, another instance of use effect is when you have a network app. Okay, when you have an app that loads data from the internet. And that's definitely something that's going to end up with use effect. Okay, because what happens from there is that you are going to, the moment you load your app, you need to, let's say you're writing a Reddit client, okay? Assuming you don't get hit by a $2 million bill, you can look it up, right? Some popular iOS Reddit client just complained that Reddit's trying to charge him $2 million a month. Okay, so what you do is you start your app, you go to Reddit, you grab their data, right? And that's using useEffect. When the user refreshes, you also use useEffect because it's a side effect. You're trying to grab data from elsewhere, or you're asking someone to fetch data for you, and then you can update your screen. Okay, so that's probably the second most commonly used hook in React and React Native, right? useEffect. So we'll see a bit more of this later on. All right, but we are okay. We are done. I don't think I'll do anything else in this case. Let me just show you. Okay, there's one more little challenge which I think I'll leave it for you to try out if you're so interested. It's this thing. Quite nice, right? It's a little quilt. Okay, so you can actually make a flat list display in columns. Okay, but having it fit on the screen is a bit tricky. Okay, so there's a bit of work to be done on this. Entirely optional. Try it out if you're interested. And this thing we've already done. Right, we've already done. Okay, so that's it for this particular unit. All right, let me just send this up. So any questions at all? No questions? All right, let's pause a bit for questions. And I will think about how much we want to cover. Maybe we can just call it a day a little bit early. You all can go for an early lunch. All right, but and let me see if there are any questions first. Okay. All right, questions? Everyone okay? Right, there's an admin question. Maybe I can answer. Okay. Okay, so for attendance for Hackathon launch for this Friday, right, we're not going to take attendance. Okay, we're not going to take attendance. So we just hope that you're there because we're going to put out the instructions, but I think we should be able to record it for you. All right, so see if we can make it, right? I'm sure some of you have something on at, 10 a.m. in the morning and stuff like that. All right, so, okay, so managed to answer one question, very productive. Okay, so any other questions related to this? If not, let me just quickly introduce what's happening later today, right? And then we have a quiz, and then we can call it a day. All right, call it a morning, not a day. Okay, so we've covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 decks of slides. This deck, I don't think I will cover the entire thing. All right, it's a lot, right? It's a lot, but I just want to cover. I just want to show. I'm just going to very briefly go through it and tell you about it. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do for the next like 5 to 10 minutes or so. Okay, so first of all, I think I should introduce you to the app lifecycle, right? Because this is something that we just talked about, useEffect. Okay, it's part of a components lifecycle. So you know what, life cycle of animals. My kid is in primary school, so every day I have to ask him. He'll be asking me, this one got 3 stage, this one got 4 stage. I have no idea, man. Go ask ChatGPT. Okay, anyway, so components have a life cycle, right? They're instantiated, they're mounted. Mounted means they are kind of like added to memory, right? And put on screen. They're rendered, they're actually put on screen, sorry, updated, unmounted, and destroyed. Okay, so unmounted means they are no longer active, destroyed means they are no longer in memory. Okay, the lifecycle manages the complexity of different platform APIs. Okay, so iOS and Android do things slightly differently in this regard. Okay, but it also allows you to optionally execute code at each step. Okay, you can have multiple useEffect calls. So right now, over here, we have one useEffect. This useEffect happens, this useEffect runs some code on every render. Okay, on every render. All right, so over here, you can have a useEffect that runs once after the initial rendering. Okay, so by the way, this is the old way. I'm just leaving it there for reference. Okay, the new way is useEffect. Right, it takes in a callback function to perform some side effects for other things that happen outside the function. Okay, so let me just show you that real quick. All right, so over here, if I add that particular useEffect, okay, and I'm going to print. Oh, not print. Wrong programming language. Hello world. Right, comma, empty array. Okay, so this thing, right, this thing runs once at start. So if I'm going to save this, okay, it will, in my console, which is over here, okay, it will do hello world one time. That's all, no more, right? So I can do all kinds of stuff. I can press plus, 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 okay? And nothing will happen, right? So it just hello world one time, okay? However, if I wanted to run every render, okay, here's what I do. I can do use effect, right? Open, close, okay? Console.log, la 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 la. Okay, so what this means is that when you first render, it will, so this is hello world, my refresh, followed by the render, la la la, okay? Every time I press a button, it will trigger a refresh and it will say la la la, okay? Every single interaction that I have will trigger this particular function that's been passed into use effect. It will now say la 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 a lot of times. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right, so that's mounting, right? The first time you put a empty array over here. Okay, now this one, right? You can actually put stuff into the array. Okay, it can actually monitor props or state. Okay, it can actually monitor things that have changed. Okay, so for example, right? Okay, this one is a bit of a trivial example, right? But let's say you want to print out the value of the colored array. Okay, every time it changes. Okay, so every time color array changes, it will run every time color array changes. Okay, so now, right, when you first launch, okay, does it actually show up? No, yeah, it does. Okay, because color array has been instantiated, it's empty. Okay, now when I press plus, okay, color array has been changed, it added one thing, right? So it's a good way to kind of monitor what's in your state at any given time. Let me press a few times, and every time you do it, it will print it out. Okay, so it's been, essentially it is monitoring color array. So just now, if you remember, I had this thing where I comma navigation. Okay, so every time the navigation prop changed, right, it would refresh that. However, it didn't refresh enough times for us to update our screen. So I didn't want to use it there. Okay. All right, and finally, unmounting. Right, unmounting is actually quite interesting. After the component has been moved off screen, right, the component can run something as well. Okay, so this one, let me show you. Right, let me see if I can do this in detail screen perhaps. Right, so I'm going to import use effect from React. All right, and down here, I'm just going to put my use effects here. I'm going to say use effect. Okay, and I usually type use effect like this, right? Open bracket, oops, hang on. Zoom is asking for attention. Right, I usually type use effect like this first, right? Because it's a nice starting point. Okay, it looks completely rubbish. Okay, it's just an empty function. And inside here, right, I can do nothing when it's first mounted, or I can just console.log. Hi, it's your friend details. Okay, so that's what happens when this thing shows up on screen. So let's just try it out. All right, so I click on this and it's going to give me this very enthusiastic thing that says, hi, it's your friend details. Okay, but if we want something to run when it leaves, you have to return a function to be run. So to return another function that says, bye. Okay, so this is the function to be run when you exit, when you unmount. All right, so if I go back over here, right, it says bye. All right, so if I do it again, hi, bye. So there we go, right? Hi, bye. Okay. All this seems a bit, trivial and contrived right now, but that's because we don't have any real need to do stuff. Okay. When would you run stuff on unmount? Sometimes, okay, we might see if I'll see if I have time to do Firebase later on. But if you work with things like Firebase, okay, if you've ever tried Firebase, it's an online database. It sets up a kind of like a channel between your app and the online database. All right. If you don't let go of it, right? If you don't unmount, if you don't release it upon unmount, it will eat up memory, right, on your user's device, and you cause problems and things like that. These are how memory leaks happen. Okay, so that's a good thing to do. Every time you create some kind of connection to some API or things like that, right, you run something in the background. Okay, when you're going off screen, you're like, oh, I don't need that anymore. Let's go and clean up all these things. Right, that's when you would want to use this. Okay, I'm going to commit this, right? It's a bit weird, doesn't really matter to the actual app, but I think it's good for everyone to see. Okay, so runs line 10 when showing up and line 12 when leaving. Okay, right, so I hope that kind of explains it to everyone when I commit this. So I'm just going to add this in. Examples of use effect. Hit push. Okay. All right, I think that should cover it for the morning, right? So again, side effects, right? Let me just quickly mention side effects. In programming, we want to avoid side effects like medication. Okay, so over here, right? If you have this function, change age, okay, you have let age equals to 2, you do change age, right? So this thing, this is considered, this function is doing a side effect, it's changing stuff outside its scope. Okay, it's considered less than ideal, but in app development, sometimes you just need to change stuff outside of your scope lah. Okay, fetching data and manually updating your JSX are considered side effects. So that's what you do in use effect. Okay, so again, mount, update, dismount, right? A bit like cycling. Okay. All right, I think we are good for the morning. All right, if anyone has any questions, please let me know. All right, let me just head over to my Discord real quick to check if there are any questions. No questions, right? So nothing question-y, nothing question-like, all right? But yeah, great. Okay, so let me close this as well. Oh, hey, the DSTA mentors are popping in, right? So just a quick note, the DSTA mentors will be showing up and they will be joining your groups, okay? So just FYI, you know, in case you're saying anything controversial in your groups, no, like you're probably not, okay? But yeah, just be aware, they will join your groups very soon, right? And my reminder for that is to please rename yourself. Where is Banana123 today? Banana123 is gone. Okay, Banana123 might have been renamed by yeah, some people here. Okay, so yeah. Where's Banana123? Banana123, congratulations. Okay. All right, let's do our Kahoot quiz. Okay, so let's so once again, we have prizes to be won. We have a prize to be won. It's the same for every quiz. If Wei Xuan, you are here, let me know if you really want to win like 3 of the same if you happen to win again today. Okay, so I need to message you about yesterday. All right, so once we're done with this, we are done for the day, done for the morning, right? So once again, please join us at 1:30 later on, not 2 o'clock, 1:30, okay? So yeah, let me know. Do join us for the afternoon session as well, where we'll be going a bit more into databases and like just working with online stuff. Okay, let's give everyone, say, a minute to join. Sorry. You have another 10 seconds. You know what? My countdowns are completely off. Sometimes I just forget. Okay, but yes, 10 seconds to join us. Only 16 today. All right, good chance to win. All right, and Wei Xuan is not here, so maybe someone else stands a chance for once. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Once again, disclaimer, some of these might be patently false. Okay, in this code, what do you replace the string with to navigate to the second screen? Okay, what do you replace that thing that I highlighted with many arrows, okay, to navigate from the first screen to the second screen, okay? Ignore my line 2, I'll tell you more about this in a moment, okay? Okay, the answer is screen second, all right, because over here I said the screen second, okay? So it's a kind of annoying, right? But this name over here must match this name down here, okay? This thing over here is a bit of a holdover from last time. I just kind of didn't bother updating the screenshot, sorry. React Navigation used to provide a navigation hook, okay, rather than passing down a navigation prop. Okay, so hopefully those words make sense to you now, right? What's a hook? What's a prop? Okay, it used to be a navigation hook that you can just access from anywhere, right? Nowadays, they just pass down a navigation prop, so you don't use this second line anymore. Please ignore it, pretend you never saw it. Okay, all right. Okay, good job to jump on. All right, let's keep going. How can you expect a user to go back to a previous screen in a stack? Okay, how to go back? Right, we never actually implemented that. The user can just naturally go back. How can you expect the user to go back? Right, can you use the back button, swipe from left edge on iOS, just quit and restart the app. They're stuck there forever, or system back button on Android. More than one correct answer. Okay, so you can actually do, all of these. Okay, technically, okay, sure, yellow technically can, but bear with me, right? You don't expect a user to do that, huh? Okay, now continue. All right, well done to Weybik. What is this? Question mark, question mark. This thing, what is this thing? What's this nonsense? Is it a named function, an anonymous function, a variable that stores data, or gibberish? Okay, the answer is an anonymous function. There's a function without a name. Okay. Okay, let's keep going. Which of these apps use list views or equivalent? Okay, so we've been talking about list views, right? Which of these use list views, do you think? Okay. Like they display things in the list on the screen somewhere in the app, probably. Okay, yeah, I don't think Fortnite uses list views. I mean, Fortnite and equivalent, they probably use their own rendering engines. Like Fortnite would probably use the, what's that thing called? Epic's thing, Unreal Engine, right? So yeah, so it's a different way of rendering. If you are familiar with those, you want to make an app out of those, nothing's stopping you, okay? I think Apple just announced that, Unity is one of their supported platforms for the new Vision Pro thing, right? When using a flat list, what does React Native ask you to prop in each element? Is it style, key, value, or a bribe? So each element must have something, right? Must have a key. Okay, must have key. Technically, you can just use the ID property, okay? But yeah, key is great. Okay, so, all right, well done to Pre. Let's keep going. What's happening here? Okay, what's happening here? All right, so what's happening here? 20 seconds, okay. Is it creating a map to display where each item is? Is it no idea? That's just bracket soup. Is it checking for the index of an item in an array, or going through each item in an array and displaying each within a text element? Okay, I think it's worth showing the media one more time. It's the last one. Okay, you are doing a map and you are creating a text view for each of them. Okay, next. All right, Pre is still on top. What is the meaning of the thing we pass into use state as an argument? Okay, when we do use state, we pass in an argument. What is that? Is it a color object with 4 properties? Is it an array that forms the initial value? Is it an array that lets us choose the colors we want to use, or is there to look confusing? Probably not green. Okay, it's an array that forms the initial value, right? So it's just the initial value of your thing. Okay, it's technically, yes, it's a color, it's not a color object, it's an array of color objects. Okay, all right, let's keep going. Oof, all right, Edmund's on top. What is the command to create a new Expo app on the command line? Right, is it create Expo app, npm create Expo app, npx create Expo app, or Expo init because my slides never update is not green? Okay, the answer is yellow. Who chose green? Okay, never mind. All right, next is npx. All right, it's npx versus npm. Npx is kind of like running special remote commands. Okay, npm has its own series of things that it can do. Okay, right, what can we destructure in JavaScript? Arrays, objects, constants, or our brains? Okay, arrays and objects. Okay, so you've seen us destructure both. You can also spread both. You can also spread and destructure both of these things. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new about JavaScript along the way, right? It's a new concept, if nothing else. Well done to Edmund. Okay, last one. What are the props to a flat list? Key, data, render item, or styles? Multi-select. Okay, it's data and render item. It's not key. You are passing key extractor. Okay, you don't pass in key itself to a flat list. Styles is there's no such prop as styles. Okay, style if you really want to use it, but it's not really a required prop for a flat list. Okay, so it's just data and render item. Let's see who our lucky winner is today. Not lucky, a skillful winner. Well done to John. Well done to Tristan. And our winner is with 7,000 points. Edmund, congratulations. All right, so I think let me grab a screenshot of that and I will paste it inside there. Edmund, if you can DM me, that'll be great. If not, I'll try and find you in the list. Hopefully there's not more than one Edmund. Okay, so yep, thank you everyone. I will see you at 1:30 if you can join us in the afternoon, and this recording will be made available as soon as I can. I just need to wait for Zoom to finish processing and download and upload and stuff like that. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning. See you later. Bye-bye.